We decided to stay a night here in Inuvik because it is not sunny yet. And we're waiting for the road to dry up a little bit before we make the trek tomorrow to Tuk. We saw some riders who came back and said that the first and the last 20 kilometers were really muddy. Some of them had to stay overnight because they didn't want to turn back when it was raining because the road was so bad. So I want to just give it one more day to dry up so that I can feel a little bit more comfortable. Moxie, Greg, and I are riding around the world to raise $100,000 for the nonprofit Girl Up. We're donating 10% of Ruffly sales to the fundraiser and posting a new episode every week. It's a big dog on two wheels adventure for girls' empowerment. So follow along and please lend your support. Especially because the place that we're staying at has hot showers, which is going to be great.
I am not really one to do a lot of photoing my meals.
I haven't had a shower in 5 nights of wild camping.
I don't know. I just prefer to eat them rather than take photos of them. However, in this case, I must make an exception because I have made the most beautiful omelet.
I got a little bit anxious today with some of the riding, so I think it'll be a nice way to just sort of relax today and then be geared up and ready to go tomorrow.
That's what you get when you leave your kibble unattended. That is a piece of the Dempster that I have collected in my bash plate.
So, we'll try it. The goal is to try it, and that's what Go Roughly Around the World is really all about, is giving it a really good try, and that's what I'm going to do. So there we were, leaving Inuvik, setting off to ride the final 150 kilometers of the Dempster Highway on our way to Tuktoyaktuk, the Arctic Ocean. And I felt, mixed emotions. I was excited, of course. I mean, I got this far and this huge goal was finally in reach. I was on the verge of making it. But am I a pessimist? Or isn't that usually when the floor falls out from under you?
It's different, it's quiet, there's not many people there. And it broke me. So yeah, it broke me, it broke the bike. And all I say is if you're gonna get new tires, don't get ones with massive gaps between the blocks because the Dempster will eat your tires alive.
At least for now, the Dempster was showing me its gentler side. So as we pushed forward over the gravel past the little lakes, my mind wandered back. We launched Go Roughly 5 months earlier from Panajachel, Guatemala, where we'd been living for the past 6 years. That's where I had the idea for Go Roughly a few months earlier. But in hindsight, that runway was being paved for years. So Greg and I were international aid workers. We worked for the same company in South Sudan. Greg wanted to do a North to South America trip, and he had done it from LA to Panama, ran out of money, and then always wanted to continue the trip. He invited me to come along, but I had to learn how to ride my own bike. And so Greg taught me how to ride when we were in Liberia, and that was our first overlanding experience together.
This is day one, first time on a motorcycle. She's supposed to be walking the bike, which means going much slower than this and just kind of hopping from foot to foot, but she's basically riding.
There were extraordinary moments, but honestly, it wasn't the adventure of a lifetime the way they describe it. I was stressed and anxious the whole time, and my imposter syndrome was working overtime. Me and everyone else out there knows that I have no business riding a big motorcycle like this.
Straight onto the world's most challenging roads, with the highest emotional stakes and the most stubborn personal demons, her journey to becoming a rider is a real lesson in putting your heart into it.
A couple of months after the trip, Greg took a contract to work for a women's microfinance nonprofit, and so we moved to Guatemala. Okay, so here we are. We made it to Panajachel. This is our new home. And that's when we adopted Moxie. And that changed everything. I wanted White Paw because I think she's the most beautiful. So we put all the other ones away and had the 2 of them there. And White Paw couldn't give a shit about me. Just was running everywhere else but with me. And then this one came and loved me too. Moxie is the yin to my yang. Here I am, this soft-spoken people pleaser, and she is a gunslinger. She leaps in, she picks fights, and she sticks her nose into everything. And the way she swaggers when she walks, she's got this gorgeous attitude of a, I don't give a tail wag of a fuck, you know? Moxie, you're there. Oh, you broke your something. Your windscreen.
Wait.
And it was on me to train her and alpha her. It was just the experience I needed. And just when I needed it. That's when I started Roughly, because Moxie needed outdoor gear and I wanted it to be beautiful, but I also wanted to support the skilled indigenous artisans that I got to know in Guatemala. I also needed a way to ride with Moxie. We only had our 2 motorcycles and I hated leaving her at home. But to be a good traveler, you have to be all of yourself, wherever you are, and I couldn't be that without her. So Greg tinkered and I shot down all the bad ideas. Until eventually inspiration hit and we came up with the K9 Moto Cockpit. Over the next few years, we carved out a few months here and there to tour around Central America and Mexico. We field tested the cockpit and we absolutely fell in love with traveling together as a pack. We were also struggling to grow roughly and to keep our heads above water. It was incredibly hard. The hardest thing that I've ever done, except for what I'm doing right now at GoRUFFLY. But you give more to get more, is how I like to think of it. And I felt myself getting stronger, a little more each day. Then during the summer of last year, I had an idea. And more importantly, I felt actually capable of doing it. We are starting this in March 5th, 2022, and it's going to be an 18-month trip across 5 continents. We'll show off what the K9 Moto Cockpit can do. How beautiful ethical outdoor dog gear can be every bit as tough as the ugly industrial stuff. And fine, I'll face my fear of off-road riding too. That first trip was Greg's idea. I went along with it, but I didn't really feel like I owned it. But this time it was my adventure and I felt ready for it. I also had my eye on Girl Up for a while. Girl Up, it was founded by the United Nations Foundation, and they're all about giving leadership training and development training to girls around the world. We support women artisans through Roughly, and it felt like a wonderful complement to that mission. So I reached out to Girl Up, laid out the idea, and they jumped on board. Just deciding to accept the challenge was a huge personal victory, but it was by far the easiest part. Now we had to plan for an around-the-world motorcycle trip with a big dog. So I'm thinking that we're gonna start.
So we've come to the clinic in Santa Catarina to get our second booster shot, which sounds weird. It's always a big question of what gear to take and how you store it on a motorcycle trip because you have such limited luggage space and you're going for days and days.
If you like what we're doing, here's how you can support the GoRUFFLY Around the World adventure. You can donate to our Girl Up fundraiser, become a Patreon supporter, purchase Roughly gear for your dog and everyone you know, and of course, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much, and now back to the adventure. We had to sell all of our things and move out of our home.
They bring a few sacks and they just fill them with chickens so they become chicken sacks. Very poor showing.
We had to relocate Roughly and manage the team remotely. Our team has been working out of our house here for quite a while, and now as we start to embark on this new journey, we are going to have a new Roughly HQ. It's going to be really close to where we are here in Panajachel, where our team will work from. My old BMW had an oil leak issue that we tried everything to fix, but it would continue to plague us throughout the first few months of the trip.
Tenemos una fuga aquí, una aquí y otra aquí. Son casi como 4.
And there was the teeny tiny issue of Moxie needing spinal surgery.
Prácticamente consistió en que se remueve la lámina vertebral que hay entre L7 y S1, o sea, la última vértebra lumbar y el inicio del hueso sacro, ¿no? Que es justamente el área donde en tomografía ya se veía una inestabilidad lumbosacra con estenosis del canal y algo de fibrosis alrededor, que estaba prácticamente comprimiendo las fibras nerviosas que están en esa parte y dan mucho dolor.
We tackled each issue one by one, and everything all at once. And on March 5th, we had a launch party at the public beach in Panajachel, and then we set off. And up. things got really interesting right from the start. We have about 2 hours to get to the border. Some of the BMW guys that are long told us yesterday, La Masia, which is the border crossing we're going to, that they've been having some like security issues.
La frontera de la Mesía ahorita es una frontera que tiene muchos problemas y no es seguro salir por la Mesía.
We're at the border and we're waiting for Greg to come back from the Guatemalan side. So we're on the Mexican side, but it turned out that the lady wouldn't let us get our permisos, our temporary import permits, unless we had a valid calcomanía. It's like their sticker thing that shows that you basically paid your taxes for the vehicle for the year.
Rain, wind, gusts, and now we've gotten to this, which is a downed tree. So we are waiting for power tools.
We suffered several crashes in Mexico and an ugly double crash near the Painted Hills in Oregon. So I had my first fall of the trip. Google was telling us to go through this route, and all of a sudden we get to this spot here where all of a sudden the stairs start. And as I stopped, we just plopped over.
We just had a fairly high-speed crash here. Actually, my second crash in 2 riding days.
If it's wet and muddy, just approach it cautiously before you dive in.
I had worried a lot about bringing Moxie into the States. The CDC in the States put out a temporary ban on dogs coming from high-risk rabies countries, and Guatemala is one of them. The CDC ban meant you needed to get an expensive permit, which they weren't giving to everybody, and then you could only enter through one of the 3 approved airports, not at an overland border. Thank you.
Where are you going to, man?
We're going to El Paso, and then we're gonna head up to Alaska.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do in Alaska?
We're doing an around the world trip with Moxie. It's a fundraiser to raise $100,000.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is that camera on?
No.
Oh, okay. So you just...
Once we got into the States, we decided to attempt an Iron Tail ride. So that's 1,000 miles in less than 24 hours.
So this is our second rest. All's going pretty well. Moxie seems to be doing great. She's a champ. At our first rest stop, she started barking. She wanted to play. She wanted to fight. Unfortunately, we just had to saddle her back up and get going again. Stop number 10, I think. We did about 50 miles, give or take, mostly because it's late as shit, and we are tossed.
My motorcycle's engine continued to leak oil, and other problems were starting to develop too. So when we got to Los Angeles, I had a difficult decision to make. So we got like 2 minutes from the BMW after they did that temporary fix on the oil leakage, and then we had a huge oil splash. Luckily there was another group of motorcyclists, and they actually were waiting for a tow truck as well because one of their bikes wouldn't start. So we chatted, I had some mezcal, it was lovely.
Very good. The special
It is.
drink for Mexico.
Yeah. We were getting ready to go this morning, and I turned on my bike and all of a sudden it started smoking. It's possible that I still have a bit of an oil leak, but I think it's at the end of its life. So it is now struggling. I'll be able to start it. It's a little sluggish to start, and then I'll be in neutral, and then all of a sudden it'll shut off.
Father God, I pray a hedge of protection everywhere they go, Father God.
I would have asked Father God just to make the bike start this morning.
So there was about $6,000 worth of repairs that would need to be done, of known repairs, which didn't include this turning off issue, whatever that is.
Which was a known repair that had an unknown cause and an unknown solution with an unknown cost.
$5,700, which is close to basically a new used bike. Traveling with a German Shepherd on the back of your motorcycle keeps things pretty interesting.
Yep, our dog is always the first to draw.
Moxie, lay down. Hey, lay down. Lay down.
Yeah, draw them in. Draw them in. Attack! Could you see the male duck pushing the female duck into Moxie's mouth in order to get away?
Traveling by motorcycle with a big dog is certainly out of the ordinary, but our travel schedule was also unusual. In order to manage roughly and publish our weekly episodes, we ride 4 days and then we work 3 days every week.
And it has costs. If we don't get work done, then we can't maintain roughly, we can't pay for the trip. It's just a beautiful rhythm of sort of those 4 days on and whatever's thrown at you. And then you know that you've got that landing time to kind of regroup, air out, and dry your gear and prep yourself for the next stretch of adventure.
This is a dry cabin. So they have electricity, so they've got heat as well. They've got a fireplace, they've got all of the kitchen stuff, an oven, a stove. But what they don't have is plumbing, indoor plumbing.
As for a GoRUFFLY around the world essential, what does this place have?
This place has squirrels.
No. It has Wi-Fi.
As we traveled north through the states, we visited a few events and rallies. I was seeing sidecars and trailers, but I wanted something that would still keep that two-wheeled feel.
It's this badass Red Bull rig here that's blasting out music, and it is right next to the Porta Johns.
I'm working on that old steamboat and learned to ride and steer. When my feet had touched dry land, how happy I did feel.
I also took an off-road rider training class to prepare myself for the Dempster and to try and overcome my fear of off-road riding. It went great, and I got through it, mostly without a scratch. It's been a good first half of the day. It's been awesome on this stretch here. I've been practicing with the cones and doing the enduro steering, getting my ass out there. It's getting better and better, I think.
From my winter hell, I got candles and candy. I can be your daddy if you want me. Creep into your prison cell. Hey baby, can you tell I'm not a criminal? Your choice is seminal. I want you to stay true. What's right for you? No matter who, always know what will others say. Just find your way. Try to stay true.
I know, almost, you right? You got it. You were surfing.
So she likes it bent and twisted. Jessica didn't just break it. She broke it at the stem. She doesn't just break the tip off. She broke the whole stem off.
Then we crossed into Canada and prepared for the wild north.
Real secluded. Real quiet, real secluded. Barely a person around, more bears than people.
Your dog will get rid of bears for you. Like, she will chase them and
She better, or what did we bring her for, really? All she does is eat. We need to test it out in order to, know what the hell we're doing so that we don't shoot ourselves in the face.
Oh, that's how. Moxie, you're fine, you're fine.
Chantel, you've
Yes.
done moose petting.
There was a moose in the middle of the road. I got out and I said, I'm gonna pet that moose. But I went up to the back of it and I just pet its body and it just let me.
And interesting that you chose to essentially creep up from behind the moose.
The far north has a way of exposing you to some important truths, and we try and be good students of life.
There is a school desk here. Why there's a school desk? Who knows? Maybe it's sort of a school of life type thing. Now, a standard toilet seat measures 17 to 19 inches. Well, we are at 22. Now, here's the thing. We've got some warpage going on, and that is like killing us, right? It's not uncommon that like you'll watch a vlog or whatever, and everything is always beautiful. Everywhere they go, everything they do, everything is always beautiful. The view from here is spectacular. So much better than what you have over there.
Tell me what you see, Greg.
I can see all the mist from here.
Here's the thing. Through all these experiences, over 4 months and 20,000 kilometers, the specter of the Dempster Highway was always with me. It's 850 kilometers of dirt, gravel, and mud. And you hear all these horror stories about the riders who say how difficult it was, and especially the ones who seemed so capable and they didn't make it. And yet here we were on the last stretch. We started out from Dawson City a few days before. We went through the Tombstone Mountains. The Tombstone Mountains. What a name, right? And then we crossed into the Arctic Circle. We crossed into the Northwest Territories. And despite all the rain and mud, we reached Inuvik. But even when you're in the middle of an epic adventure and you're battling your fears, you still have to stop and take a moment to pick cloudberries. We're 12 kilometers out and now we have stopped to do some cloudberry picking, mainly because we saw a whole 3 pickups and a bunch of people out into the fields just a little bit over there, and you could just see the whole field was full of the berries. Oh,
We have found cloudberries. They're right here out in the field along with all the mosquitoes. So it's kind of brutal out here, but this is a cloudberry. And it's sort of inside of its thing, and then you just pluck the berry out and you feed. Now, Tina from yesterday really struggled to describe the flavor.
We picked cloudberries up, and that's the load we got a few days ago.
Awesome.
Yep.
And they're just on the side of the road? You go into the forest area? Or?
Once you pass the tree country.
What do they taste like?
Are they sweet? Are they like a raspberry or?
No, it's sweet, but.
What do you make jam with them, or what do you do with them? Or you eat them as
they
is?
cook.
Nice.
It's a little like.
They are sweet. So if you get the ones that look like more bulbous, that have more liquid in them, those are the ones that are ripe. I don't know if they can be yellow or they could be red, so it really depends. But yeah, they taste really good. They taste
softer is better.
Softer is better, and they taste like I don't know, a mix between sort of like a
Head for the sun, follow your footsteps, edge of the world, right to your doorstep home. Anywhere you wanna go, beyond the stars, out where the sun sets, we'll find the light, and we'll keep it our secret home. Anywhere you wanna go, down any road, anywhere you wanna go, I'll show you my world, show you my world, show you my world.
We made it to the Arctic Ocean. We finished the Dempster Highway. It was not as bad as everybody said it was, and we finally made it. Moxie is gonna get off the bike now. She's gonna go put her paws into the Arctic Ocean, and then we're gonna spend the night.
For me, this was as much about coming here as it was about seeing the person that I love most in the world grow into that challenge, to accept that challenge, have the right attitude going into it and giving it her all, and having a good time doing it.
We're gonna let Moxie put her paws into the Arctic Ocean. We've been waiting for this moment it's been 5 months basically we've been on the road. And now we're finally gonna be able to do it. She gets to put her paws in, I get to put my hands in. Yeah. Yeah, did we make it? Did we make it? Yeah, big girl?
We have come to Land's End, and Moxie decides that she needs to destroy it.
Hi guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. Being able to take you along on this journey from before we even started this, from our backstory up to now to the Arctic Ocean, it brings me a lot of pleasure to be able to share this with you and have you along with us for the journey. And it's been a great achievement for me to have reached the Arctic Ocean. It's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad that finally made it. And you saw it wasn't that difficult for me, I have to say, on the way up. I made it through. I faced my demons and I got up there. And I have to say, the way down was horrible. It was so much more difficult. We hit rain, we got into all the mud, we had breakdowns, we had punctures. A lot of things happened on the way down. And that is what is going to be coming up next. Now that we've reached the Arctic Ocean, we're on our way south. So we've reached the northern part. Now we're on our way down to the tip of South America, tip to tip, top to bottom. That is our route. So we're going to take a few weeks off right now, and then we are going to be coming back with all of our episodes of coming down south and continuing this journey. So you're going to want to make sure that your notifications are turned on YouTube so that you get notified when our new episodes come out. And if you love what we're doing, you can head on over to our Patreon page. That's where we're telling some additional stories. So you're going to be able to see that as well, and some of the behind the scenes stuff that we do. Just wanted to say again, thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you soon.